3D printed bike parts are increasingly common these days, but a 3D printed helmet that's custom fit to the shape of your head? That's a novelty. I've been testing this KAV Rhoan since late spring in a variety of settings, speeds, and temperatures, and I've been annoyed by a few features, like some of the rough edges, but pleasantly surprised by how cool the thing is to wear. As for how cool the thing looks, I won't tell you what to think. I will tell you that writing this, I have about a 50% chance of getting a beehive joke. Not a bad thing, I like jokes. I have not safety tested this, of course, but Virginia Tech, the third-party tester, has given this its top rating of 5 stars. I've been in wind tunnels all over the world. I have not aero tested this, but looking at the svelte shape and the lack of vents, I can believe KAV's claims that this is on par with the Specialized S-Works Evade, a high-level aero helmet. What I did do was extensively test this thing in a number of rides and races, both here in the US and in Europe, and I'll share all of that with you here. This video is not sponsored by KAV. I don't do sponsored reviews. I realize this is YouTube, and that's often how things are done. I get emails literally every day asking me if I want to do a collaborative review with a financial incentive. That's not how I roll. I started in cycling journalism 25 years ago, and I just do straight up reviews. I am able to do this as a full-time job with the support of my sponsors like the Cyclist Lawyer, which provides cycling advice by cyclists. More on them in a bit. But now let's dig into this review on the KAV Rhoan. I'll break this into 4 chapters and you can jump around if you like. Chapter 1, how KAV creates this 3D printing in California, how your data gets to them. Thing 2, what I like. Thing 3, things I don't like, including the sound. And then thing 4, things I'm still unsure about just because this is such a fundamentally different style of helmet compared to a traditional foam helmet that has a fabric liner. Even the liners are 3D printed. KAV 3D prints these in California based on 2 things. 1, you measure the circumference of your head. 2, you take a picture of your head straight on. And then KAV uses some whiz-bangery to create a 3D model of your head and makes a helmet for you. Then you get to pick the colors of the different panels, and 6 to 8-ish weeks later, a helmet shows up. Pretty cool. The construction is this hexagonal, beehive-looking 3D construction. It's made in chunks, and then those chunks are put together like Legos or like IKEA furniture. That allows for a couple things. 1, crumple zones and a MIPS-like absorption of rotational impacts. The helmet comes apart under heavy load. As I mentioned, even the liners are 3D printed, and that allows for a bit of a hammock-like suspension on your head. I was amazed when I got this for the first time at Sea Otter, how I put it on my head and it just fit. I didn't need to even loosen or tighten the retention device at the back. The thing just fit, which was a nice thing. Often I'm in between helmet sizes, like a medium or large, and I'll do things like cut some of the plastic away, which you're not supposed to do, so I can get a medium helmet to fit instead of having a larger helmet. So just the color choice aside, having a helmet that is not a medium, small, or large, which is typically your choices for helmets, but a helmet that is instead fit to the shape and size of your head, that's a cool and novel thing. KAV prints with a custom blended filament, which has different temperature properties. At first glance, it may look like a Smith helmet or the wave sail that Trek used in its helmets. This is similar, but different. And then the external shell is for aesthetics and aerodynamics, but the safety is all in this hexagonal honeycomb structure. Things I like. The sizing. Custom fitting is cool. We have bikes of all shapes and sizes. Our bodies come in all shapes and sizes, so why do we just have 3 choices normally for helmet sizes? This is a plus. Another plus thing, aero is narrow, right? The reduction of the frontal profile means faster. So having a helmet that fits right up against the side of your head, in addition to looking nice, also looks good in a wind tunnel. I like that these are made in the US. I can't name another helmet company that produces in the US. If I'm wrong, please correct me. These, I'm pointing at POC, Giro, Specialized, all good helmets. None are made in the US. As an American, I like to see cool stuff coming out of here. And that's, pricing aside on the whole tariff roller coaster that the bike industry is on now. Love the fact that these are made in California. I dig the sunglass ports that hold the sunglass arms super snugly. Most people ride with the sunglasses on their face like normal people. I often put them on my helmet. I just like feeling the air on my face. So having a helmet that holds them snugly is a positive for me. The biggest surprise and a big positive for me is how cool the helmet feels. Looking at it, it doesn't look ventilated, right? And even the fact that there are big ports in the front doesn't translate to having channels through the helmet. The helmet sits pretty much flush on your head. So I thought this was going to be hot based on other aero helmets I've worn in the past. It's much cooler. I think that's due to a couple things. One, the insulation properties on this custom filament are different than foam. Foam is, I joke about it being a beer cooler on our heads, right? It keeps what's inside either warm or cool, depending on what the natural temperature is. Aero helmets often feel quite hot when climbing and you're not getting a lot of airflow. I wore this in France on a couple days when we were out climbing for all day. We rode stages 18 and 19 and it was hot. It was, upper 90s, so like close to 40 degrees Celsius for those of you counting old money. And the helmet didn't feel hot. I mean, it felt more like a baseball cap. Like you definitely tell there's something on your head, right? It's restricting a bit of the airflow, more on that a bit, but it didn't feel overwhelmingly hot like a traditional aero helmet would. So that was a pleasant surprise. However, much like a baseball hat, there was not a lot of airflow going across my head, and that's something that I miss with something like, this is POC's aero helmet. And yes, there's a lot of filled in space on the tops and sides, but there's big vents up front and critically channels flowing through, so you can literally feel the air going over the top of your head. KAV says that the big vents on the front allow air to go where the cooling is most effective, the front of your forehead. Sure, I buy that. And that may lead to why this does feel cooler than I expected, but I still would like to feel a bit of air blowing over the white hair, that just feels nice. And as I mentioned, I like to have the sunglasses off and feeling the wind in my face and on my head is something I like about riding a bike. So I'd like to see some channels built into this guy for that purpose. So that's the front of the do not likes about this helmet. The other is the rough edges literally on this. This is printed in modular components and then those are attached and then you can see where the pieces come together and it's a little on the rough side. KAV does some filing and some heat welding in the shop there and that can take off some of the edges, but it's still just a little bit rough compared to, a traditional helmet where the edges are much smoother, right? Another beef I have is how thin this stuff is and that when you ham-fistedly jam it in your suitcase, it can crack at some of the pieces here. I also got dents cramming into the suitcase. Denting is not unusual. Like I jammed this, where was it? Specialized lid in my suitcase and got a bit of a dent on it there. So that's not to be unexpected. It's a frustrating thing about traveling with helmets, right? You almost need a helmet for your helmet when it goes in the suitcase. But this shell seems particularly lightweight. Also, it can come loose in some of the pieces. Whitman, the CEO and founder, said they will now weld these pieces in so they don't come loose. But the modular construction combined with how thin these pieces are can lead to problems if you're jamming stuff into a suitcase like I often do. Another downside to this helmet, it's loud. My friend James Huang, who did a tour of KAV's facility, I'll put that link down below so you can see how these things come together. James hit the nail on the head by saying this sounds like an old TT helmet and that the solid shell on top kind of echoes around inside. Not that you're riding around scratching the helmet, but when it rains, it's noisy, or even just putting your sunglasses on there or doing gravel rides where little rocks will get kicked up. It's just a whole lot louder than a traditional helmet. Small thing, but just a weird thing. The Cyclist Lawyer is a supporter of the ride, I'm happy to announce, and the Cyclist Lawyer is Andrew Phillips, who has a wealth of knowledge on things related to the legality of cycling. One question I have is regards to consumer direct product coming from China. There's a lot of it, it's cheap.
It's tempting.
Tariffs are changing that. But should something go wrong, should a wheel fail catastrophically or a frame fail, what recourse do we as cyclists in the US have?
I get that it's super tempting. You look at the price of components or bikes today, you know, you can spend $6,000 on a quality bike, or you can spend $2,000 on this thing from China that has no name. The problem when you do that, though, is that if you have a catastrophic failure and you get injured, there's really no recourse. Who are you going to hold accountable for that? Some foreign entity that you probably can never track down. Don't do it. You know, save up, buy used if you have to, get a quality check on that from a bike shop, make sure it's okay, but be careful about buying that stuff from China that's no name and no recourse.
And to be clear, there's a lot of brand names you're familiar with that are manufactured in China or Taiwan, but that's a different scenario.
Totally different scenario, right? Because most bikes are made in Taiwan and China, and that's fine, but you have a legal entity here in the United States that you can hold responsible if it came to that. Oftentimes it doesn't. I feel like the quality is pretty high on that, but things do happen. I've been involved in those cases and had to go down that path, and it was nice to have somebody that could end up picking up the bill for those medical bills for you.
For more legal information and help, check out the Cyclist Lawyer online. Now, things I am unsure about. The 3D printed pads, they feel very different than the normal fabric pad that will sit inside a helmet. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know. I've been riding this thing for months, going back and forth between this and other helmets, and I'm not sure. It's a lot lighter, for sure. It doesn't absorb anything. It acts more like a sweat gutter, if you guys remember those, where instead of your sweat just coming down on your face, it will catch it and distribute it to the sides, so it drips down the sides. That's kind of a nice thing. You're not getting drips on the sunglasses. I've been wearing a normal helmet, obviously, for so long that this still feels more normal to me, and I will occasionally, when it's really hot, press on the front of the helmet to get the sweat to squeeze out. This thing also comes out sometimes. You can clean it pretty easily, but it just has such a different feel of very thin, almost like a plasticky fabric sitting on your head compared to, like a squishier, softer fabric. So bad or good, I don't know, but definitely different for sure. They're two very different things, so this has got a bit of squish to it and will saturate with sweat for sure. This cannot absorb any moisture, but feels almost like a pleather on your forehead. Which is better? I don't know. Weight-wise, this is for what would effectively be a size medium plus. 59 centimeters circumference, a little over 300 grams, which puts it in the ballpark. It's not the lightest, but not the heaviest. In summary, I love the innovation of these KAV helmets. I love the fact that you can get them custom fit to the shape and size of your head. I like the fact that you can pick out the colors of the helmet. I love the safety. That's the primary reason we're wearing these things on our heads, right? 5-star rating from Virginia Tech, the respected safety testing institute for helmets. That's obviously a positive thing. I'm surprised by how relatively cool these things feel on the head. I wish there was a bit more direct airflow. I wish that the pieces went together in a smoother, less rough looking way. And I wish the outer shell had a bit more robustness to us because I am often cramming helmets in suitcases. So that, in a nutshell, is my take on the new KAV Rhoan. Let me know what you think. Let me know what questions you have. I'll do my best to try to answer them. And whether you like a 3D printed helmet or a regular foam helmet, just put something on your head and get out there and enjoy the ride.